Hello everybody, my name is Rachel, and today I want to show you how I made the forehead and chest gem pieces for the character of Fi from The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. So I made these out of resin, and this is actually my very first time using resin ever in any kind of capacity. And for it being my first time, I think I did pretty good. There are obviously some blemishes that ended up happening with the final product, but like I said, I don't think I did too bad. So I knew that I was going to be making a mold out of something that was the right shape and size of her gem. And when I tell you that I scoured the internet for months, I'm not kidding you. But I eventually found the right thing from a shop called Element of Supplies on Etsy. And what I did was I hot glued those to the bottom of an old whipped cream container and a jar lid, and I used those as my shell. So most of this video is going to be sped up. That way you don't have to sit through an hour of me failing at basic math and stirring and making messes. Um, so here I am trying to figure out where on my mixing cups that I needed to, because it's a 1-to-1 ratio of this of mold maker, and so I needed to know where on my cup was the halfway point. In hindsight, I probably should have gotten a bigger mixing cup or done smaller batches. Because later on you'll find out it became quite messy for me. Um, and I was very nervous about making sure I had the ratio like just perfect. I I've never worked with this stuff before, and so it made me a little nervous to know whether or not I was going to get it. And while you watch me pour and stir and mix throughout the video, maybe play a little game with yourself. See if you can figure out what my nails are based off of. They are based off of something nerdy, and I don't know if you get it right. How about you get a virtual cookie? Okay, so like I said earlier, I probably should have gotten a bigger mixing cup or did smaller batches. As you can see, I clearly wasn't paying attention to how close to the edge I was getting with this. I was really trying to make sure that I had everything mixed, so I was scraping the sides real good, because a lot of it was sticking to the sides. But I got a little too overzealous, and y- yeah, you'll see. Once I got the mixture completely stirred, I then started pouring them into the mold shells. And for the big gem, I started to notice that I wasn't going to have enough because, as you can kind of see, the top of the gem still stuck out. So, after carefully mixing up another batch of mold mixture, I covered that completely and also took care of filling up the jar lid that had the forehead gem in it. All right, so getting these molds out of the shells were the the forehead gem was a bit of a struggle, mostly because I couldn't really fold and maneuver the jar lid like I could the whipped cream container. But I eventually did get it out, um, and it once it started pulling out, it pulled out very easily. However, it did seep through the bottom, so I did kind of have to carefully use my X-Acto knife and make the opening for the gem cleaner and get the gem out. Uh, the big gem went so much smoother. Um, I didn't really need to save that whipped cream bowl, so and you can kind of see how excited I got about the fact that it seemed to be going in the right direction at this point. Now, with the resin, this is the resin I got. I really have no idea how I got this resin because I didn't actually buy it. It just was in my craft stuff, to be honest. Okay, so while I have never worked with resin, I know people who have, and I know that resin, once you finally mix your parts together, you kind of have to work fast, because it will start to cure. Um, so I figured that the best way to go about it would be to make sure that I had glitter mixed the way I wanted it first. So in like one of the smaller mixing cups, I just started dumping glitter uh, different colors, and the purple one was a bit chunkier, so I kind of liked having that dimension in there. And so I mixed them till I thought it looked good, and for someone who doesn't care for glitter, I just kept adding more. And I kind of found that to be hilarious later on whenever I got to thinking about it. I'm like, I don't like glitter, yet I kept adding glitter and adding glitter and adding glitter. So all the glitters that I ended up using and eventually the ink that I used as well later on were lent to me by a coworker of mine who actually does quite a bit of resin crafts herself. So she was gracious enough to lend me her supplies. That way I could I could try this out. And I should have expected this because it's glitter. But I made the second mess of the project. Um, it, that glitter is probably still on my floor somewhere. Okay, so again, I've never worked with resin, but I do know that if you don't get your ratio just right, you will have some complications. I know I've seen some that are tacky and don't want to set up and cure. So I was really, really nervous about this part and making sure that I had my ratio just right because I really didn't want to have to do all of this all over again. All right, so now that we are almost to the end of the video, have you figured out what my nails are based off of yet? So this part actually made me really, really nervous. I know you're supposed to stir resin slowly to help prevent air bubbles, but I didn't quite know what was considered too fast and too slow. So I just kind of went for it. I figured I might have some air bubbles. It'll be fine. I did have some air bubbles. It was fine. Um, but then I added my glitter, and as you can see, it started to take shape and it's starting to look really good. And I was getting really excited at this point because I knew it was coming together. All right, while I continue mixing, I will let you know that my nails are, in fact, based off of Death the Kid from Soul Eater. That is my left hand that only has three white stripes on it, much like Kid's three white stripes on the left side of his hair. And here you'll see I have made mess 2.5 of the project. I didn't count it as a whole mess because it didn't really get everywhere, but it almost did. So, yeah, I'm counting that as only half a mess. So I made in grand total, surprisingly, I only made 2.5 messes in this whole project. Now, I struggle to gauge how much of something that I actually need, especially when it comes to crafts. So I ended up making way bigger of a batch than I actually needed of this. But I did have the foresight to buy some like pet tag molds, and I did use those to use up the leftover resin that I had after pouring these two molds. Okay, demolding these was super exciting and nerve-wracking and terrifying, but they turned out very well in my opinion, especially like I said for the first time of me doing anything. I do think there was an air pocket, especially in the points of both of them. There is a bit of a nick in the chest gem, and I actually had to completely redo the forehead gem because as you can see, it has like a it's completely broken at one of the points. But I did redo it completely, and it came out perfect the second time around. And this is what the final dress look ended up looking like. Before I attached the gem to the dress, I did cover the back of it in felt. That way, any roughness from the resin wouldn't damage the dress. And then I just hot glued that to the dress itself. I hope this was helpful for anybody looking to craft something similar. And I hope your project, should you do one, turns out fantastic.